Home the gold.
He could be too far. No, he's kicking. Oh, what a catch!
Puts a spicy forehand out in front of Naomi Morcilla.
Woo for the win. Team Canada. Darren Woo!
Santos with the layout grab.
Oh, that fantastic grab. The claws of Chaffer.
Canada just became the world champions.
Yo, Canada and the rest of the world. You're listening to an audio-only version of the Huckin Eh podcast. I'm one of your hosts, Theo Wan, from Toronto, Ontario, but currently in Milwaukee, Wisconsin.
And I'm Danie Proby from Vancouver, BC, and we are your coast-to-coast guide to all things Canadian Ultimate. Speaking of American Ultimate, where are you? What are you doing? Tell us all about it.
Yeah, I'm currently in the beautiful state of Wisconsin. Haven't had any cheese curds yet, but yes, I'm currently in Wisconsin, in Milwaukee. Just had the D3 championships this past week, and then getting ready for D1, and that's partially why we didn't record last week. And some of the games all the games that were filmed that the tournament we'll be talking about later on this episode are not edited yet. So a lot going on there in Wisconsin. Yeah, that's what I'm doing here. Danie, you're still in the sunny skies of Vancouver? Rainy?
Yeah,
I'm not sure.
Sunny. Pretty sunny right now.
Did you get up into any Ultimate on the weekend or what?
Well, no. Okay, so here's the thing. Tuesday, I was like, oh, I'm not feeling very good. I feel like I have a concussion or something. And then it's like Wednesday, I started feeling even worse. Like after my work day, I kind of just like crashed into bed and I was like, wow, I feel like I have a flu / like the worst headache I've ever had. And then I did a COVID test and it was so aggressively positive. Like it wasn't even like wait the 15 minutes. It was positive within 2 seconds and dark line. So that was Wednesday when I tested. So I thought I'd kind of be out of quarantine or whatever on Saturday or Sunday. And I just kept testing positive all the way until today. So it's been a long time that I've been just chilling at home. I haven't had symptoms for a few days. So maybe I've been fine for a couple days and I don't really know how long it lingers, but it's been a good opportunity for me to slow down. So no Frisbee, but when I think about my life in like spring and summertime, if I can think about 6 or 7 days where I can't go and be around other people, this couldn't have been a better 6 days, because starting tomorrow and starting like the 2 days before I got it, things are crazy. Like there's nothing that I can miss in this time frame. So I think I got really lucky and I feel very grateful that I got it now and not another time. Final anecdote about this. Ari and I did not change up how we were like living together. And he just didn't get it. Like I'm boosted. We still share a bed. We still like do everything together. He's just negative, no symptoms. And it's annoying.
Yes, my brother actually, don't know if he's an avid listener of the show, so he won't even hear this, but he did test positive at some point earlier this year, and his wife never got it. So in the same situation. So you never know these days.
So weird. That's okay. But I think you were doing something. It's not as exciting as having COVID, but something not so good happened to you as well.
Yeah, I mean, it just incurred a loss of financial resources. A couple of us on the Ultra World team went to the Chicago White Sox game, which is a little bit south of Milwaukee, and we had to drive through rush hour traffic. That was number one bad, but we turned into this street to like go to the parking lot, and someone out looks at our window and says, "Do you have a coupon? Are you paying cash?" We're like, "We're paying cash." He's like, $40. And we're like, $40 for parking, that's pretty expensive, because on the website it says $27. So I'm like kind of skeptical. The rest of us are skeptical, but we pay the $40 cash. We keep driving, and then it dawns on us. We realize the actual parking lot's up ahead. So we turn into the actual parking lot, see the $27 sign, and we're like, we just got. Like for sure, we just got. We go up to the lady. The lady's already talking to someone else about the same thing. We go in, we're like, "Do we just get, like, what happened here?" And she's like, "Yeah, you just got scammed." I'm just like,
so smart.
So we paid $40 US for that, and then we paid $27 US for the actual parking. So $67 in parking fees to go to a White Sox game. I talked to some people afterwards that are like, Chicagoans, and they're like, yeah, welcome to the South Side. So that's your warning. If you ever go to Chicago White Sox game, don't fall for the scam. We had the out of town plates because it's a rental. So they knew we were scammable.
Yeah.
And it left a very bitter taste in our mouths, Danie. I will say that.
Yeah, there's something kind of icky about getting scammed, feeling like taken advantage of. It's not a good feeling. So sorry that happened to you. Well, now you're bonded together because sometimes when that stuff happens, it does bring you together. So you have that story now.
It's true. We are bonded together. We're actually staying in the same room right now together. So it's like we're ride or die now. So it's a story we can tell years later. So that is my story of getting scammed. Do not fall for scams. Be better than me. That's all I can say.
I was going to make a sassy joke at you, but I will refrain. All right. So
Hey, I'm okay. I'm honestly over it now. So it happened yesterday. So if you want to make a sassy joke, I think the audience will love it.
No, it's the time has passed. I don't think you would have liked it very much. So moving on from this section, let's head to the news because I know we have lots of stuff to update. And we also have a main event, which we're going to be talking about the TUX tournament, kind of recapping everything that happened there and also doing a preview of what's happening with UBC. So let's head to the news.
We now have breaking news.
So in the news, we got rosters. I'm not going to list, of course, every name on the roster, but lowercase. I'm expecting them to do really well in the World Masters tournament. So lowercase roster out. GT, Goats B team roster out. My alma mater, Mavericks rosters out. New women's team in Toronto. Got to give some love to the name Incognito because you got the TO in the name, which I just love that. And all the top Toronto teams. I'm being a Toronto homer right now. I get it. But Goat, Union, Sixers, all their rosters are out. And I just want to give a quick, we got to give the shout out. I know this person's been working really hard, has been on our podcast before. Julia Peden, Making Sixers, shout out to you. I know there's other people that made it. I could shout out a lot of people, but we got to keep things moving. So that is the case with rosters. And now we get a lot of, I don't want to say we get a lot of emails, Danie. We get a couple. Let's just say that. We get a couple emails. We got a couple emails out here from Ottawa Juniors program. They sent, count this, 5 teams, 3 boys, 2 girls teams to the Pioneer Valley Invitational, a high school tournament in Northampton, Massachusetts. Apparently it's the culmination of the U.S. high school season. Danie, this is interesting to me because they're going as club teams, but they're playing high school teams. Like, is that kind of odd, or what do you think about that?
I think it is unusual, but that's kind of what we've always done to go to Spring Rain. We just send some like random kids from our programs as like a club team. And I think because our high school seasons don't really match up with the American seasons and they're just excited to have Canadian teams there. I think there is a little bit of bending of the rules for us northern folk. So excited to see that they were able to make it over there. And I mean, you're gonna kind of explain it, but they ended up doing quite well.
Yeah, first of all, on the girls' side, Wicked West finishing 3rd overall. That's like amazing. Losing 8-6 in the semis to the tournament champions, who defeated Titan, another Canadian team. So get some love there. 13-3 in the final. So 2 Canadian teams finishing up in the top 3. That's pretty sweet. And bonus, we talked about this topic before. Wicked West and East finishing 1 and 2 in spirit. You'll love to see that.
Yeah. We do love to see that. I know Canadians definitely have a bit of a mixed reputation south of the border in terms of spirit. So we love it. We love it.
Yeah. And on the boys' side, Ignite, which is the top Ottawa team, they're finishing 5th overall out of, count this, folks, 37 teams. That's pretty cool. Had a tough quarterfinal loss to the number 1 seed. And Scorch and Blaze, they're getting some victories out here. And Blaze in particular doing really well in the spirit rankings. So there you go, Ottawa Juniors. We're going to talk U20s in a bit, spoiler. And I think there's going to be some Ottawa contingent in that area. So that's all I got to say. Ottawa's doing it right.
Ottawa is doing it right. We're going to kind of move into a different category. So the World Games had a training camp this weekend, and so did Red Flag. And so both teams were in Vancouver doing practicing type things. And then they also went to Burlington on, I believe it was the Saturday. Oh, maybe it was the Sunday, on Sunday, to play scrimmages against each other and against Mixtape as well. So I don't have all the scores for all of the games, but I know that Red Flag's Instagram was popping off. So I was able to watch all of the points. It was super awesome. So Red Flag ended up beating Mixtape by 3 or something around that, 3 or 4 even, and looked solid. So I know they were obviously missing Khalif El Salam due to other World Games training camp, but Red Flag looked fast, speedy. They're throwing up hucks, coming down with sky balls. It was very, very exciting. And Theo, we've been looking forward to hearing how Red Flag does against American teams for so long. So to get like a little bit of a taste, we don't actually know what was happening. I know both teams were missing players potentially, but it's a very promising first crack, I would say, right?
That is absolutely correct. I got a couple of messages from people telling me Red Flag just beat Mixtape. Like what? And I was telling the Ulti World team, telling Charlie, telling all of them, telling Aiden, hey, Red Flag just took down Mixtape. Like that's a pretty big deal.
Yeah.
Even though they're missing some people, of course, and I'm hitching all of my stock. I'm putting all of my stock, all of my money into Red Flag being the next Canadian team to make USAU Club Nationals in the mixed division. I'm going all in there.
Yeah, it's very exciting to have so many strong teams in Canada and now including Vancouver mixed team, because mixed has always been there's always been quite a few mixed teams here, but there haven't been too many mixed teams that compete competitively, rather, in the States. And so it's very exciting. Then Red Flag ended up playing World Games. And I think that they lost World Games by 3, 4, 5, something along those lines. And that game also looked really awesome. So the thing about World Games is I know that the players know whether they made the roster or not, I believe, but I don't like none of the rosters are out. I could have gotten that information wrong, but I think people know.
So my question is, because I know there's still a tournament for them to play, correct? They're going to Poultry Days.
Mm-hmm.
So they're going into that tournament knowing who's on the team and who's not, or?
Yes. So they needed to solidify their rosters before Poultry Days anyways for the World Games. So yeah, I think that the part of the process is they had to agree to kind of close out the whole season with the World Games team, and they're still part of the team. They're just not the ones that are rostered for the event.
Yeah, we talked about it. I said it, like I keep referring to it in the house here, and because the Team USA's had their roster for a while, so we're just chomping at the bit, ready to see our roster and to see what's going to happen there.
Yeah, speaking of national teams, we have the U24 coach applications. I think that they're closing now, maybe even today or something like that. So curious to see how that's all going to unfold. I heard that there might be potentially room to add a third coach to the 3 teams. I think that was something the high performance or the competitions committee was talking about. I forget which committee it is, probably high performance. And so that's interesting because that would get a lot more coaches kind of in the door training in order to be able to take kind of coaching positions later on down the road. So that's exciting. So we'll kind of see how that unfolds. And the biggest news in my world, anyways, and I think a lot of young folks' worlds, was that the U20 rosters were announced. Finally, the whole process takes a long time. These kids have known for a while. I mean, by the time the first emails were going out, everyone had already figured out who had made it, even though they're supposed to keep it quiet. To be fair, adults are no better. We all know who makes teams before the rosters are announced. So on the open side, there's 21 players to the main roster and 3 alternates. And on the women's side, we selected 24 athletes. And yeah, we have a training camp June 10th to 12th in Vancouver. We're going to be scrimmaging against traffic, hitting up the beach. I'm going to have lots of teenagers or young folks staying at my house. Theo, what are your thoughts when you see open 21 full roster, 3 alternates? Does that like strike you with any feelings?
It strikes me with you're getting lots of PT because I mean, they're young and spry and springy, but injuries do happen. So I'm just thinking that what if a couple people go down? What's going to happen? And you would have more insight on this, but are the alternates traveling to the tournament? And then if someone gets hurt, they get in, or how does that work?
Yeah, alternates generally are there to kind of get an extended look. So potentially they would show up to the first training camp or two, and then would be moved to a full roster spot or not after that. So that's generally how it works. They wouldn't go to the tournament, the World's tournament, unless they were a full roster. So I kind of have a suspicion that they're going to end up taking 24, but I'm not on their coaching staff, so I don't know. But the players that are on their alternates are very good players. So it's very exciting. One thing I do want to shout out on the women's side, especially in BC, is that I believe 6 or 5 at least of the 6 or 7 that made it from BC will get to go again in 2 years if they apply and make it. So they have another cycle of U20 to play. So the team is super young. It's not just BC. There's quite a few people that are in grade 11 or grade 10 in different regions. So our 2024 roster is going to be sick. Very
Yeah, I'm
good.
looking specifically. Yeah, it is going to be sick. It's going to be fire, as the kids say. But I'm looking specifically at the U20 women's roster, and we talked about it earlier, but Ottawa having 6 players, I don't remember a year
Never.
ever that I've seen that, like ever.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I think
And
last round we had
yeah,
3 from Ottawa, and this one having 6 is just a testament to how much work they've been putting in the offseason. Quebec also has a lot of representation, so it's really exciting. I know Winnipeg and Toronto are down. There's only 4 from Winnipeg and 2 from Toronto, so most of the players are coming from cities that were able to be practicing tons during the pandemic. So congratulations to everybody who made the teams. Hopefully the event runs. You never know. But we're moving forward with the plans, and we're actually farther into the plans this time than we were last time. So it's exciting. We're booking stuff for training camps. We didn't get this far last time. So all my fingers and toes are crossed. It's going to happen. Speaking of crossing fingers and toes, UBC is at Nationals. They were heading out today. Their games start Friday. Is that true? Yeah. So we're going to be previewing that a little bit in the main event, but it's just hot news, fresh off the press. Finally, my last little BC update is that it's high school provincials starting. It's Thursday and Friday for BC school sports. So like our legit high school provincials. And then our sort of BC Ultimate Invite high school provincials are Saturday and Sunday. So 4 days straight. I'll be in Surrey on the field watching Ultimate, coaching Ultimate. There's like 100 whatever teams going to be playing. It's a little bit of a throwback to 2019. So I'm buzzing with excitement.
Danie, it really is a throwback because that was a long time ago now.
Yeah.
2019. It feels like an eternity, as they say, because it was a long time. So very excited for you. Are you going to offer predictions, or you're going to stay away from the prediction alley here?
Yeah, well, we've been doing power rankings through Elevate a ton, and we have done forums like Pick'ems forums, kind of like how you and I did for college too. So we're seeing a lot of people guessing and winning prizes and stuff if they're correct. And I think that there's no doubt in anyone's mind that Eric Hamber is going to win senior. Like they haven't lost a game all season. They look like they have barely any blemishes on their season. So I would expect an Eric Hamber sweep.
In both divisions?
In junior and senior, yeah. Yeah, it's a strong program. They've got like really good elementary schools that feed into them. They have a lot of kind of club players, a couple TC kids. So yeah, it's good.
All right, we'll see. We'll see if they prove it true here. And shifting very much so into different divisions, we're going to talk quickly about AUDL because we missed kind of 2 weeks of it with not having an episode last week. But you should go back if you haven't, to those in the audience watching Montreal win on a buzzer beater. I watched the last 5 minutes live. 18-17 buzzer beater win. Christophe Tremblay-Jonca on the World Games, extended team, the overall, making the grab. Big deal for them. Toronto gets their first W over Ottawa. And then Montreal, I don't know what happened, but they go to DC the day after that buzzer beater win, and then they lose by 10. So That's sort of one of those, you're hyped and then you're deflated after that game. So I don't know how you feel after the weekend.
Yeah, I mean, the buzzer beater, that sounds really exciting. I have to admit that I did not see it, but I might have to go watch any of the highlights because I love that stuff. And I love the Canadian teams and doing well against American teams. Makes me feel all warm and fuzzy inside.
Yeah, I'm going to tell you this right now. This team is not feeling warm and fuzzy inside right now because Toronto then in week 4 goes 0-2 and score lines are not looking too hot. 23-13 loss to Boston and then 31-17 to New York. So
Tough.
It's tough, but young team, young squad, they're going to learn. Montreal also 2-game losing streak now. They drop a game again, 19-13. And then it was just it was just not a good weekend for Canada in the AUDL because Ottawa loses to Philly 23-22. I will say, I have to say this because there was a storm. I had no clue about this happening because I'm not in Ontario, but there was something that was happening in Ottawa. Messages were coming in about, is the game happening? So they're able to run the game. Some people showed up, and that's cool. So testament to you for coming out and supporting the team.
I heard that, the storm was insane. It kind of came out of nowhere. Like there was a bit of a warning for a lot of these people, but I don't think they had an idea of how crazy the wind was going to be. And so all of these places are out of power. Schools are being shut down because they have no power. But for some reason, this stadium is like the lone building that had power. So quite a few people ended up going to watch the game because it was like somewhere they could hang out and have power. So the gods were with Ottawa at that moment. The team anyway, not the city. The city was in turmoil.
Maybe they bring like stuff to like eat and shower in that area with power there because that's the only thing. So
yeah,
that reminds me of the blackout of, I don't even know, was that only in Toronto? I don't know if that happened in Vancouver. I assume it was just our area, but there was a blackout when I was like in grade 8 and everything literally shut down. Traffic lights were down. For those who are in Toronto wouldn't remember this. I remember we had to like eat with candles and like shower with like flashlights because like all the power was gone. Don't open your fridge because the food's going to spoil.
I feel like that's a very normal experience. Like it doesn't happen
Is it?
much anymore, but that happened to me a ton growing up. But I also lived in a small town, but it's kind of nostalgic because you get the candles out, you can't watch TV or anything, so your families are playing cards and doing stuff. And I always liked it for like 3 hours, and then the novelty wore off, and I was like, all right, give me The Simpsons again. I'm ready to go.
Yeah, we definitely went on a segue here, and now we're going to jet over to our main event. We're going to talk TUX results, and we're going to talk UBC. So first off, TUX results. I got some people chirping in my ear here because I made some picks wrong, so I'll admit them. I also got a lot of picks right, so I'll admit that too. In the open division, Tombstone won their pool instead of Still. And, some people on Tombstone were chirping me here. The Grand Masters team giving me some, a yearful saying, Theo, don't give up on us just after one tournament. You gotta believe in us. So they do a great job there. And I will say, caveat, Tombstone had Andrew Carroll for both days. So I think that needs to be said. It was Tombstone with Andrew Carroll. So,
Yeah.
You got to go with that. Hound wins their pool. I unfortunately did not pick the right pool play matchup. GT beat Boat, and a lot of GT players let me hear about it later on. So that's what happened. I was right about Roy. They made the top of their pool. And so, they got to the crossover, beating my alma mater. So congrats to you. In the quarters, the biggest result was the fact that Phoenix, the team that I actually met at TUX, they were loving our podcast, Danie. They loved that you weren't sure if the team was real. And they what's crazy about this is that they have their jerseys already. Like they have their jerseys and tank tops already. So they're good to go. They have a lot of people that have played Outlaws or Phoenix in the past, and I was impressed with them. That's the team I was kind of like looking out for. I filmed that game between them and Tombstone, which eventually you'll be able to see at some point. But they took Tombstone to Universe Point. So Phoenix, I'm stoked about your team. Still defeats Hound in the other semifinal. And then I picked Still to win the whole tournament, and they proved me right. Let's go. 11-10 due to cap. I will say, I was told by Still, due to cap, they defeat Tombstone in the final. I wanted to film that game, but I was filming another game, mixed semifinal. And then what happened was the open teams were like, hey, some of us are from Ottawa. We want to start the game early. There's an open field. Let's just do it. And then I missed out.
I mean, that's practical, so I totally get it. Now, flipping over to the women's side, you correctly guessed that lowercase would win their pool, but then I think you got a little bit mixed up at the bottom. So then we had Incognito, which is the women's team, as you said, and then Joy Hot Club, and then Lore. And then in pool B, you kind of flipped 1 and 2. So Fox ended up winning, PPF was second, and then Queen's P, and then Night Fury. Is that how that goes? Yes. Excellent. So in terms of quarters, lowercase ended up moving on because Night Fury dropped out. Joy Hot Club ended up defeating PPF. Incognito beat Queen's P's, and Fox overtook Lore. So what you predicted was that lowercase versus Fox in one semi and Incognito versus PPF in another. And it was lowercase defeating Joy Hot Club and Fox over Incognito. So you got 2 of them right. So it's okay. Your women's ultimate knowledge doesn't need to be as strong, I think, because you don't play in those divisions. You don't have buddies all over these teams. So in the final, you
Appreciate
had
that.
No problem. Lowercase defeating Incognito, and in fact, it was lowercase defeating Fox. 15-6, pretty commanding, actually.
Yeah, I don't think obviously Sixers wasn't there, so lowercase didn't get tested in the same way. But not that these other teams aren't strong, but lowercase does have has players that played Capitals, and
Yeah.
they're a team that's going to do well at World's Masters. So yeah, kudos to them. And unfortunately, didn't get a chance to film their game, but yeah, we'll see what they have in upcoming tournaments. In terms of mixed, Union won their pool. I got to pat myself on the back here. Pool C, I predicted every single thing properly. So our resident fact checker said that he had to prove me wrong because I picked against his team. He played for Max Power. Then after the game, he messages me and says, "You were right. You predicted it correctly."
Wait. This should have gone in the news section. He said that you were right.
Yeah, he said you predicted right. We lost to Grey Owl, and I was like, or we lost to Force. I even predicted their demise in the pre-quarters, and I got that right. So
if that was a message, you should print it, frame it, hang it on your wall, kiss it goodnight. Just like, what an honor, really.
It was a text message. I will not lie to you. It was a text message that came into my inbox. So I will. You're right. I should frame it. I won't shame our fact checker and say that, but it clearly says. At first he says, "I guess I should feel fueled," and I said, question mark. He said, "You picked against my team at TUX," and then later on Saturday night or Saturday afternoon he says, "You were right. Max Power lost to Force in the crossover 9-8."
Okay. 9-8's a good score.
Yeah. I just want to pat myself on the back here, but in terms of the other pool, it was kind of a mishmash. All the 3 teams going 2-1, and there was some point diff being involved, but Crash ends up taking the pool, then Local, then Crank, and then Danger Noodle going 0-3. I got the correct picks of the other 2 bottom pools, Crux and Force beating Max Power in the crossover. And then quarterfinals, Union defeats Danger Noodle. Crash that is not right. Crank defeats Force, and Local defeats Grey Owl. Those are my predictions. Now I see what happened. Now I see I got my own thing mixed up. So anywho, the winners of the quarterfinals: Union, Reunion, Crash, and Grey Owl defeating Local. So that's a pretty big deal. Mixed Grand Masters team winning. That's cool. So your semis were Union defeating Grey Owl, Reunion defeating Crash by a larger margin, and then Reunion defeats Union in the final by 1. But I will caveat this: Reunion had some Union players that ended up playing for that team in that game. But all's to say, Danny, the theme of this tournament is Masters teams all won their division.
Yeah, I wonder why. And if I were to predict, I know that Masters Clubs is coming up pretty soon. So potentially these teams have been a little bit more driven and more focused early season. It's kind of giving them a bit of an edge, or they're kind of getting ready for the tournament to show up. So potentially that gives the Masters players a bit of an edge there, but that is pretty cool. And also 2 finals being 11-10 is also pretty neat. We like close finals here at the Huckin Eh podcast.
That is true. And now TUX is wrapped up. Like I said, expect some games coming at you later on. Once Nationals is all sorted out here in the United States where I am, make sure you tune into the streams as well, please, because you'll hear a familiar voice among other familiar voices. So Chaboy may or may not be commentating the UBC game is all I'm saying. So let's talk about UBC now, the lone Canadian team at Nationals.
Yeah, so they are in Pool C, and so the number 1 seed in their pool is Carleton College. UBC coming in at number 2. Then California, San Diego is the 3 seed. Virginia is the 4 seed, and Colorado State is the 5 seed. Normally, Pool D is the pool of death because you get like the 4, 5, and like 10 or 11, or like it's kind of like a lot of teams kind of like that are nitty gritty kind of in the middle. And so Pool D is usually dubbed Pool of Death, but Ultiworld, or Deep Look rather, our brother podcast, sister podcast, whatever, our brethren, they said that Pool C is the Pool of Death, and I couldn't agree more. So between Carleton, UBC, and San Diego, you could very well understand why those 3 teams could finish in the first spot. They said on Deep Look too that they wouldn't be surprised if there was a 3-way tie. And yeah, I know that like UBC and Carleton have each won a game against each other this season. I know San Diego has been putting up really good scores against good teams. UBC has a bit of an edge because they have a kind of an easier game before they play Carleton. So hopefully that helps them out a little bit. Also, UBC's roster is just extremely deep. So in a long tournament with many days and all the games are important, a team like UBC, you just have to kind of put your money behind them, because a team like San Diego, they have Ava Hanna. She's dope. I played disc golf with her at the Ultiworld Invite back in October. She's amazing. She's one of the best, if not the best player in college women's ultimate. So, but she's like a standout on our team, whereas in UBC, it's so hard to kind of pick any standout. So I'm obviously a homer. I think UBC's dope. They're going to be on the live stream. It's going to be 3:30 Eastern time, 12:30 Pacific time on Friday. Is that correct?
That is correct. And the interesting thing to note is you were right about the easier game, because UBC plays, no disrespect to Virginia, but I mean, I don't want to jinx it, but I think UBC, we're homers here, I guess. I expect UBC to defeat Virginia. Carleton actually, I don't know if this is lucky for them. They actually don't play that morning. I don't know if that's actually good or bad, to be honest with you. It actually might be harder. Like when you talk about the easier game, because they like get to play. UBC gets their legs under them, gets to kind of enjoy the sights and sounds of Nationals. And if there's nerves, you get it out in that game. Whereas Carleton's going to come in first game. That is so tough in terms of scheduling.
Yeah, I definitely would like to have an easy game to start, because the one time I did go to college nationals, the first game felt like a throwaway because we were so nervous. It was just like a very different experience. The caliber of the event is on another level. So getting that kind of like jitters out early is really helpful.
Yeah, I will say that, and you're right. And if UBC comes in first, they'll take on sort of the winner of the crossover. And if they come in second, they get to play the third place of Pool B in a crossover. But then they would have to match up with UNC in the quarters, which is like super.
It's tough.
I would say it's actually tougher than if they come in third, which means they would play the second place. They have a harder pre-quarter in terms of playing the second place team from Pool B, but then they match up with the number 4, number 5 seed, which is like the top seed of Pool D. So
a much more beatable game.
Yeah, I don't think you're gaming it that way. you have an easier pre-quarter if you come in second, but a much harder quarter. So all's to say UBC just win the pool.
Just go out there, win the pool. We're rooting for you. We believe you can do it. You have played really strong matches so far this season, and you're going down with the dopest roster. So you got it. You got it.
Do we have the count of how many players on UBC are on that newly announced Team Canada roster? There's probably a lot of them, right?
No, one?
Oh, there's only one?
Yeah, because all the BC players are in grade 11, basically.
Oh, but they were TC people in the past, though.
Yeah, there's lots of
Like
TC
U20s.
alum on the team for sure. But if you look down at the UBC roster, it's like red flag, traffic, red flag, U20, U20, U24. It's like, it's pretty star-studded. So they're deep.
Yeah, and Danny, we're not deep look here, so I don't think we're going to predict the whole tournament. But yeah, any other teams you're kind of excited to see, or I'm excited for that Carleton UBC game specifically. I feel like it's kind of a shame that it's early for Carleton. I mean, it's good for UBC, but a shame for them because usually you want that 1 and 2 matchup in the pool kind of later on.
Yeah, I'm excited for that game. I'm excited if UBC does get to match up against UNC again, because I think UNC is just very exciting to watch. And I think that now that UBC has played them once, they have some new strategies potentially to help the deep a little bit more. So I hope that matchup can happen. I don't want it to be in quarters. It'd be better if it was later on in bracket play, but that's okay.
Yeah, and as you probably know in the audience, Ultiworld does this contest. Well, they have two contests. One is Beat Charlie, and the second one is the game. And the game revolves around picking teams in college nats who will do well and get you points. And if you pick lower seeds, you actually you can't just pick all top seeds. There's a certain amount of seeds they have to equal to a certain number. And UBC I feel like is a good pick at 6 because you're not picking like a 1 seed, so you can have some room to play with in other teams you choose. So once again, homers coming through, but that might not be a bad pick in the game is all I'm saying.
I mean, I'd pick them no matter how many points it would use. So UBC number 1 all the way. Let's go. Let's go.
Are you going to get a face tattoo during college nats to pledge your allegiance to the T-Birds there?
No, but I think a lot of people from my college, the college that I went to and played for, have vixen tattoos, little foxes in different places. So I will not get a T-bird on my face if that's what you're asking. I do
face paint. No, maybe not tattoo, but face paint.
Okay. No, I will not, but I will be very obsessively checking Twitter. So
yeah, or just watch it on the stream, USA Ultimate, Ultiworld YouTube channels, and you can catch all the coverage. There's going to be 2, I'm going to let this cat out of the bag for the audience here, 2 live stream games and 2 film games per round. That's some pretty epic coverage coming at you. So make sure you subscribe. You can watch those on tape delay, the games that aren't streamed. But that's a lot of Frisbee to watch over the weekend.
Speaking of subscriptions, if you don't subscribe, you should. If you want to, we're going to say goodbye now too. So if you do want to hear Theo and I talk, well, Theo will talk a little bit about his experience right now at college nationals, some things that are happening. And I will share a story or two back in the day when I went with you, Vic. It was historic. So epic even. So if you subscribe, we'll see you in the subscriber only section. But Theo, you want to sauce those socials?
Yeah, I mean, Huckin _A Instagram, that's all you need to know. Danny, I know we're trying to get a little bit more active on the Twitters here, but yeah, it's all about all the Instagram still. So make sure you do that. And yeah, we're going to be posting more content, especially from TUX, once we get to actually editing those clips. So make sure you stay tuned for that. But for now, we'll say bye. We'll talk about college nationals and how UBC did next time we record. So if you're not a subscriber, subscribe because we're going to head there right now.